I think it's going to be for the best for everyone if we start today's show by acknowledging the vibes. I'm Joshua Brisco, here with Nate Taylor, who is once again broadcasting from the great outdoors, despite the fact that it's 30 degrees colder than it was the last time he did this. Nate, I'll just tell people that the Chiefs today did a surprise marathon of introductory press conferences for virtually every player who has signed with them so far. In fact, the fact that Marlon Tuipulotu was not on that Zoom call today makes me think we don't need to talk about him in today's show. We're going to, but the Chiefs didn't put him in the Zoom call. We
talked about core 9. You got to be the first 9 to sign. The first 9 to sign get to be on a 2-hour extravaganza all on Zoom, by the way.
It was the first post Super Bowl press conferences that you got from players was happening here on March 20th, and it was all of them, all back to back, from Nick Bolton to a beautiful keynote 15 minutes from James Winchester.
Yes.
All the way through the free agent class. You've submitted a piece over to the mothership in The Athletic. I sat here in this chair and I watched every second of those press conferences, and it's the first day of March Madness. Like, the vibes are weird. It's a weird one for me. Are you okay? Have you watched any basketball yet today?
I don't know, Tucker. I don't know if this is copyright appropriate, but this is my son's iPad. It had to be confiscated because kids, there's no way they made me go. There's no way they made me work 2.5 hours without watching McNeese State. Give us one. Hallelujah.
For the audio audience, what Nate just held up was not merely an iPad whose first purpose is to serve Hayden. This is a child's iPad in the case. It looks kind of like a Microsoft Surface. It is in a strong enough case that if you spiked it off the ground in contempt, I think it would be perfectly fine. Now, I guess the question is, how many times do we have to throw this show off the rails before it finally breaks? Seth Kaiser, two men who have been trying to watch basketball while covering a sport where the ball isn't round. Truly, 11 months out of the year, I vastly prefer to be spending brain space on football than on basketball. Sure. But March, particularly these couple of weeks right here, this is a challenging time to stay focused on the oblong as opposed to, in fact, I'll bring out the prop I've got in my office today just in case I need it.
Yes.
Got myself one of these Pizza Hut Final Four little mini balls from a couple years ago. Have I told the story of how this got to my door?
Please tell it again.
So this was in 2022, and Pizza Hut does a thing, not a sponsor. If they'd like to be, I'd be happy to help. Pizza Hut in 2022 does the resurgence of the classic Final Four mini basketballs. I had one of these as a youngin' out in the backyard. It was perfect because you could lower that hoop to 7.5 feet. You could palm yourself one of these, and we're all Dwight Howard. We're all Vince Carter. Like, we are putting our elbow through the hoop. That still wasn't happening. Play school hoops might not have been enough for that. But it was really a special basketball that got a ton of use out of it. And so I saw it come back around. I'm like, listen, I'm an adult now. It was like $8. Yeah, like you know what, Pizza Hut? I know this is marketing. I know that I am being brainwashed by corporate nostalgia, but I want it. I want a tiny basketball that I can dribble in my unfinished basement while I watch March Madness. So I ordered it and had it delivered. And this full-grown man, which makes sense, but like this, it's going to be important for what I have to do. Just an adult man delivers the pizza. He's got, pizzas and whatever breadstick nonsense I bought. And he hands it off to me. And I take this food from this respectable professional man. And I have to run the math in my head for a second while I take the pizza, thank him. And then I have to say, so
there's just one thing.
I also ordered the mini basketball, sir.
Sir, the pizza is secondary to what
It really
I ordered.
was. Sir, if I would have had it in my heart, I would have just ordered this basketball and put a frozen pizza in the oven. The pizza is so unimportant to me compared to this basketball, but I really do not want to ask you to get in your car, go back to Pizza Hut and come back and drop off this basketball. I will, for the rest of my life, or at least for as long as I possess this basketball, I will be unendingly grateful for how that man did not make me feel small, for asking him that. He was apologetic. He was enthusiastic. No, oh, you got no. I know where they are. I just didn't see it. I didn't grab one. Whatever. He was back in 8 minutes or whatever, and rings my doorbell again to simply hand me this basketball. And I think I tipped him graciously, and I'm sure I thanked him graciously because that moment, his face is all perfectly ingrained in my head still, and I have this tiny basketball to prove it. So on the off chance that anyone listening to Only Weird Games very, very sadly, very urgently delivered a miniature basketball to a then, I think, 28-year-old man who desperately wanted a miniature basketball, thank you. It has made it. It made me very happy. That's where I'm at. That's my headspace right now.
Incredible storytelling. I now want Pizza Hut and a mini basketball, and to not talk about Gardner Minshew.
Whoa! Hey! Pick anybody else from today, and I'd let you have it.
Shout out to Alicia Marie, who says totally missed filling out my last minute bracket because I was too distracted by Gardner Minshew talking about cattle farming. Yes, that is the highlight. Thanks for coming to the show. Nothing else to see here, kids. Look, I love the first day of the tournament. There's no, this is the closest thing we have to the cocaine of fall, right? There's no other real sporting event in America that gives you the type of joy and elation and ecstasy like March Madness on opening day is very similar in a sense to Red Zone, of course, on opening day in the fall. And of course, I confiscated my child's iPad to multitask today. Again, I am an all-pro multitasker. Josh, I asked so many detailed, excellent questions that I hope Chiefs fans realize I am more productive today than America is asked to be. And we now have Gardner Minshew and McNeese State in our lives. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. And if you're watching this show, if you're listening to this show, I guess we'll talk about some things. I'll try to be helpful. But look, man, my bracket's looking strong right now. And shout out to Gonzaga, just making it work in the second half.
Who just lost? I had a perfect 5 for 5 until somebody just went final.
Was it the Clemson? Was it Clemson falling to our
Oh,
symbol?
no, that makes sense. No, I'm good with that. That's okay. I'm supporting the double-digit seed. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that was a 2. That got done at 2 points. I saw somebody say Clemson was storming back. I went, oh boy.
Yeah. So, as I've
said,
said,
mini basketball.
As I said on Tuesday's show, nothing will compare to tonight's back and forth between Kansas playing Arkansas and Missouri playing Drake. And hopefully
Severance season finale, Nate. I'm having a good TV night.
I heard from Mr. Kent Swanson himself. So look, I got to catch up on Severance. I heard it's a grand show. I'm too busy rewatching Shogun. I'm sorry, guys.
I get it. That's fine.
It's one of the greatest shows I've ever seen. And forcing my pregnant wife to watch it, which is even better. Hey, you want to see a guy get his head chopped off? That doesn't inspire you?
What would have been a harder sell for your pregnant wife to watch? Would it be decapitations on Shogun, or would it be the 2-hour press conference extravaganza that we had today? Because we're gonna talk about one of those, and it's not Shogun right now. At least.
Okay, right.
Maybe later in the off season you can do a full spoiler breakdown.
Yeah, I do want to get into Severance because Apple TV is actually rising up the charts in terms of producing high quality television. I just got some breaking news to me, not to anybody else. our beloved friend Nick Jacobs has requested that I stop showing my iPad to the camera in hopes that TNT Sports, CBS Sports will not file litigation against me. So okay, thank you. I mean, this is true friendship right here, because I had to go make a phone call while Christian Fulton couldn't show his face clearly.
Really?
Yes.
You were gone for that? I didn't know why people were asking. It was 2 hours. I didn't know.
Yeah, I had to take a phone call and handle some other business. But Nick Jacobs asked very good questions to Christian Fulton, which you will read those quotes, ladies and gentlemen, in The Athletic. God knows when. But yes, hopefully CBS TNT Sports. I sincerely apologize. Don't look at these last 10 minutes. And my attorney is Nicholas Jacobs. Okay. And yeah, you know, that's where it is. He also texted me, don't use my name on the show. And that is that is something I cannot do, sir. By the way, check out 40 Minutes to Mike with Nick Jacobs and Matt Derrick.
A wonderful podcast that I can't endorse.
A great podcast.
Enough.
Yes, that I enjoy. Because I know them both as friends and as peers and colleagues. So yeah, I'm sorry.
Friends as of a couple minutes ago, for sure.
Yep,
at this point, who's to say?
Who's to say?
I will say that my lawyers have told me nothing about showing the Pizza Hut logo to the camera, despite the fact that I paid them for that particular honor.
That's right. Continue in perpetuity.
And will in perpetuity. They had a great employee who got me this gym years ago. So Nate, I thought we might go kind of chronological and just kind of pick like a couple things from each guy who talked today. And then after Nick Bolton's press conference was done and I had written in my Google Doc the words Nick Bolton and then one dash, then that strategy changed for me because look, in fairness to Bolton, he's been here. This is a return for him. So like him talking about already having more phone calls with Steve Spagnuolo and looking to the future and all of that. That's not surprising or news breaking. He's not a new name in Kansas City, but the way that his return worked out certainly bears, breaking down and evaluating. And then also we've now seen the salary cap structure for his deal, which again, he's making $15 million each year, but they have a lower cap hit in year one and then much larger cap hits in year 2 and 3. I am not ecstatic about his $19 million cap hit situation for next year and the fact that maybe it's a 1 year then restructure and see where you're at kind of deal. I don't know. But did anything stand out to you from Bolton? And we should start with him just because I don't know that there was a lot of new stuff, but there was a few little nuggets.
One of the things I tried to get out of him, and I appreciate that he reciprocated, was, yes, he's not hiding. We don't have to hide anymore about him and Steve Spagnuolo.
Yeah,
basically being a employer-employee version of like father-son. Like there's definitely a father-son sort of element to their relationship beyond their success. And I do think it's interesting too. Like Nick Bolton, I'm sure you remember this, Josh, said like, hey, for as much as the 2022 draft class gets all the praise and all the love, Brett Veach, the front office, the coaching staff, they have retained 4, I believe, of the 6 draft picks they took in 2021. And just about all of them are starters, sand a future Hall of Famer at tight end. Because if that wasn't the case, then obviously Noah Gray would be a starter. And obviously he plays similar kind of starter minutes. But with them obviously still having work to do with Trey Smith, Nick Bolton acknowledged that, like, yes, this is something we've talked about. Like, he came in the league with Creed Humphrey and Trey Smith, and obviously they got a deal done with Noah Gray last year. So I thought that was fascinating that, like, it didn't appear that Nick Bolton really ever wanted to, like, truly test free agency waters. But at the same time, like, he's now part of this second wave of, like, veteran leaders who are all now on their second contract. And even though he's not a core 9 member, he understands his role and his value to the team. Now, is that $19 million a year appropriate? Yeah. I guess they'll get to that next offseason when the salary cap once again hopefully goes up. But yeah,
hopefully by another $100 million.
So yeah, so I found that to be pretty fascinating. On top of what you said about his relationship with Spags, and the idea that look, the Chiefs understand that for now it's better. He and again, I think that's why the negotiation wasn't that difficult, but like he and the team realized that it's better for them to be together than apart.
On that note of kind of the like new veteran class, it has actually been a very long time. And the guy who changed this trend is kind of a funny one. It's been a very long time since the Chiefs had, up until these last couple of really this last year, until they had started securing their own draft picks. The first Brett Veach draftee to sign a multi-year deal to stay with the team was Mike Dana, who hit free agency, tested free agency for a while, and then came back on effectively a 2-year deal. I can never remember if there's actually a third year on that or not, because it was
it is, but it's
definitely not. It's like it's
right,
the one that stretches the number of what the deal overall is. But up until Mike Dana, everybody was back either not at all or Derek Nottie on a whole bunch of 1-year deals, and then even in that next class, where L'Jarius Sneed is obviously a fantastic football player, they move on from him instead of paying him. Then you get to all of these guys, Bolton, Humphrey, Gray, and Trey Smith, all being guys the Chiefs kind of continue to build around in various levels. So that is interesting and kind of how that all pieces together. Let's go ahead and let's just knock out the other guy who is returning, but with a big deal, being Hollywood Brown was the next guy up. The wide receiver room in general, I want to talk about a little bit more later on with Juju Smith-Schuster being back. We didn't fully talk about that. And I should have mentioned this at the top. No Seth today. We'll do the Jerry Tillery film review with him on Tuesday and try to answer some of those questions that we were asking on this last Tuesday to get a little more there. But for me, with Hollywood Brown, what I heard from him was everybody thought it would make sense, and it did make sense. He talked about, why did you get brought back? And he said, a few of the games I played, I was there and I was able to open things up for the offense a lot, but wasn't really involved that much, which I thought was just like a very obvious and true and honest in a way that
yes,
it continues to have all of that make sense. Where you think about what he could do at full health in a healthier version of this offense. This just always made sense to me.
Yeah, this was the worst kept secret, least surprising thing to me in the offseason. Even more than Nick Bolton in a sense. I did it earlier today. I don't know if you've looked at it yet, Josh, but essentially the Chiefs and Hollywood Brown basically signed an identical contract to the one they signed last year. I mean, identical. It's just because the cap goes up, instead of being 2.8% of the cap, he's now 2.4. There's a little bit more cash being paid out to him over the course of this year, considering last year. Again, this is all according to over the cap, but base salary the same, prorated bonus the same, per game roster bonus the same, workout bonus the same, guaranteed money the same. So that tells you, ladies and gentlemen, that they basically came to an agreement before the season ever ended.
Yeah.
Once it was made clear, and I think even Brett Veach said this publicly a few times in the days before the Super Bowl in New Orleans, just how much they wanted him back. And that sort of signaled to me that they have chosen him over DeAndre Hopkins. And as I've said to you before, even before that deal got done, they chose Juju Smith-Schuster over Justin Watson. In terms of retaining those two guys. So that's where we are. And the question now becomes, can they actually get to what's on paper? This still stunned me writing it today. But there's yet to be a game in this iteration of the Chiefs where Patrick Mahomes has Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy all on the field.
No.
Much of the success of the offense comes down to, can what's actually on paper be put on the field on opening day? So if they do that, that's great, and even Hollywood acknowledged that that was another reason why he wanted to come back, was to, fulfill what they thought their potential could be, especially after the Chiefs drafted Xavier Worthy in the first round. And so, look, we don't know the suspension situation with Rashee Rice. I guess something could occur with Xavier Worthy, if Roger Goodell cares, in essence. But at some point, will Patrick Mahomes have those three guys on the field alongside Travis Kelce? Because that makes the offense, at least on paper, more potent than it ever was at any point last season.
And theoretically, without a gaping hole at left tackle, which was an issue throughout last season. We'll talk about Jalen Moore. And also, I want to talk about the one other returning Chief on the other side of this quick timeout.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
Success in real estate takes more than vision. It takes the right financial partner. When someone takes something rundown and turns it into something great, that's called a comeback story. Like Bryan Group. They take distressed properties here in KC, completely rework them, and then turn them into valuable real estate. But that kind of work needs the right bank behind it. Enter Emprise Bank. They're not about cookie-cutter loans. They saw Bryan Group's vision, backed them, and now they're making big moves in Kansas City real estate. Talk about your partner in possible. Emprise doesn't do one-size-fits-all financing. They invest in potential and back growth. Visit emprisebank.com/KC to learn more. Emprise Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
I'm going to save Kareem Hunt for our running back conversation up next, but James Winchester held court on the Zoom today. He was in his car. They were on their way to go see the grandparents, and he was there for the longest of anybody. He may have had longer than any two combined pressers of the day. And he's now the highest paid long snapper in football. I will say the only news bit of his presser that caught my ear, Nate. Did you catch what did one thing in the press conference make you go, Because one thing made me go,
What was that, Josh?
It's when he said the contract that they got offered was, quote, above what we expected. Anticipated.
Anticipated, yes. Uh-huh.
He said of the contract the Chiefs brought to James Winchester and his agent, he said, quote, it was above what we anticipated.
What a way to send this man off.
I guess, man. Good for him. It's less money than they're paying Jack Cochran. I'm cool with it. But really?
What a send-off.
You got the wool pulled over your eyes by the agent of the long snapper?
Look, man.
Good for him.
Sometimes I just throw you a bone and you say,
yeah.
Where do I sign? Where? Yes. When can I sign? How quickly can I get this to my fax machine? or my sign or DocuSign? How quickly can I get there?
I'm glad the Chiefs aren't going to have a UDFA long snapper next year because they wanted to save $500,000 on James Winchester. But yes. I don't think I've ever heard a player, much less a long snapper, go, they offered me more than we thought we were going to make, and I'm making more money. So, I'm thrilled.
Yeah, okay. Is it above the veteran minimum? Cool. Is it more than I made last year? Cool. Is it more than anybody's making at my position? Where do I sign?
We can no longer do the thing about the Chiefs not having the highest paid guys at positions because they backed up the Brinks truck for James Winchester.
Hey, I don't have to move.
I support it.
I don't have to move. Oh, yeah, no. I gotta sign this immediately. Hey.
You talk about Hollywood Brown being the worst kept secret. Hearing Winchester today, hearing Winchester in the past, the idea, and I kind of a long loop on this one, where I guess it kind of goes back to the end of Dustin Colquitt's NFL career, where he was kind of latching on to a couple other places. I imagine if you get the opportunity, man, not moving and not worrying about where your family is going to be and all of that, while being the highest paid long snapper in football, an excellent decision and good for everybody. That part caught my ear.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the blindside protector and the left tackle hole filler and what we got from Jalen Moore today. I didn't have a whole lot of electric quotes from him, but he obviously seems very happy to be here, very happy to be a presumed starter at left tackle, happy to protect Patrick Mahomes. What did you think from Jalen Moore today?
Okay, Tucker, let's zoom in. Okay.
Whoa. Okay. I think I can do this. I can solo you up. Hold on.
Okay, let's listen to me, ladies.
Whoa, sorry, there's too many layouts here.
A lot of boxes.
No, Tucker's got to be the adult here again. I'm sorry, okay. Tucker. There are too many things for me to click. I wasn't ready for this.
Okay, buddy. Okay, now look, I'm outside one of my favorite places in all of Overland Park, Kansas City. Shout out to Parisi, giving me as much caffeine as I can. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have a superstar quarterback, he radiates so much of the roster, right? Especially once he's taking you to multiple Super Bowls and he's won the Super Bowl and he's been Super Bowl MVP and he's the greatest quarterback we've ever seen over a 7-year period. And sometimes that radiation just gets on another position. And it's been on the left tackle position for so long, right? And guys have basked in it from the moment, Eric Fisher's Achilles snapped. I'm just going to be honest, because Eric Fisher was a Pro Bowler, but he never looked at the position as like he was a star, right? But ever since then, that position has been granted star power because of the quarterback. Okay, the greatest quarterback we've ever seen just immediately puts you in a spotlight. And look, Orlando Brown loves the cameras. Donovan Smith, hey. I can be on this play one more time. Hell yeah, I can be on the stage one more time. Incredible. Hey, when does a playoff start? When does the playoff start? Okay, cool. Guys, Kingsley Suamataia saw the spotlight, and boy, did he bask in it for all of a month.
Yeah,
for an entire month. Okay. But Kingsley Suamataia was very confident because you're the star. You're protecting the greatest asset in Kansas City Chiefs football history. Okay? The spotlight requires a lot out of you before you ever touch the field. Josh, the audience, my mother, they got to him. They got to him so quickly. Hey, man, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, what happened to Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore said, "What? I could be a starter. I can start for Patrick Mahomes. I can play for the Chiefs. I can go from a good team to a really good team. Oh my God! I'm gonna be I don't have to back up Trent Williams anymore. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna make like real money, like real starter money. Like for all the analysts that say, stop taking tackles in the first round, people. He's the starter, okay, of these mock drafts. Stop, Mal Kiper. I don't care. They chose me, baby. They chose me. And he flew to Kansas City with his lovely lady, and boy, everything was on him. The spotlight was on him, ladies and gentlemen. He signed a contract. It was incredible. He got to talk to Patrick Mahomes. And then they said, listen here, young man. You cannot say anything.
I think at some point he said, if it does work out that way, in regards to him maybe getting a starting job. Nate didn't hear that because Nate gesticulated so hard his headphone came unplugged.
Yep. Yeah. Don't say anything.
He said
you need to shut it down. Shut it down.
Nate,
shut it down. Don't say anything.
He at one point said something, the paraphrase was, if it works out that way where I end up being a starter, brother, you're here on a $20-some million deal over the next 2 years. Listen, dude, it's okay for you to just be like, I'm excited to start. But Kingsley said that, and by week 3, they were like, no, you're not actually. You're actually not excited to start anymore. You might be excited, but you're not starting.
I
don't think that same fate will befell Jalen Moore.
Hey, I know that spotlight warm, fuzzy, make you feel good, see stars in your eyes. Don't you say anything. Don't you say anything fascinating. Don't even smile on Zoom.
I need you to pick your most boring hobby. You're allowed to talk about that. He didn't even give us one of those. I would have loved to have found out that he was like big into Legos or something, but no. You only get that from
personality.
You get that from Nick Allegretti's coin collection, like draft night.
Listen to me, okay? He's not here anymore, but I need you to be Joe Tooney.
Oh man,
I need you to be a robot.
Do you think Chiefs PR was actually the unit of the team in general that was the most pissed about the trading of Joe Tooney? Like I bet like Andy Reid, Andy Heck, Brett Veach, I bet all of them were like pretty annoyed that they ended up moving Tooney. Ultimately, like that's a tough trade. But Chiefs PR had to be furious, man, because he is. You can set it and forget it.
Yes.
Just change his clock for daylight savings twice a year.
Yes.
And he's a perfect example. Jalen, you know what he's saying next to you, the left guard. You're right behind because you're right beside him. You're starting. Okay, just do what he does.
He does.
Don't say
Do
anything. Beat and boop and say nothing else.
Ladies and gentlemen, you working hard at your job. I sympathize with you. I align myself with you. I see you out here grinding. You doing all the things, right? Think about that promotion you want, that promotion you deserve, okay? That promotion that's going to let you have some better vacations, maybe a better housing situation. I don't know, maybe you can like have kids now. Think about getting the biggest promotion of your professional career and then being told upon earning that promotion, don't be excited. Don't ever be excited.
You might be a $16 million backup. What? I might? Well, that's not what you guys said when we agreed on this. Shut up! Quiet! No talking.
I'm just saying there's a change in the pattern of becoming Patrick Mahomes' blindside protector. Don't say anything interesting.
You know who didn't say very much, but did say it in, I believe, the best voice of the day? Jalen Moore's former teammate and once again teammate Elijah Mitchell.
Yes.
That was the story of the day for me. Is that I don't know if he just had a better mic setup or what, but I feel like Elijah Mitchell could do like audiobooks after his career's over.
Yes.
A soothing, syrupy voice there, joining the Chiefs' backfield. He talked about Moore quite a bit, and you asked him about Jalen Moore, and he spoke very highly of him, and it seemed like they, also they were both kind of second string guys for the majority of their time there in San Francisco. So I imagine they were probably actually spending quite a bit of time together. It sounded like that when Mitchell talked about him. Anything from him before we get more into the running back plan with Kareem Hunt in a minute?
Now, he couldn't say it because, again, they got to all these dudes.
Yeah.
And look, there's a little less interpersonal connection when you're doing things on camera and you haven't met these people before.
Sure.
So I obviously I sympathize with the athletes when they're like, okay, I'm going to hit this link, and how many people are, I don't know any of these people.
Right.
He couldn't say it out loud. And again, we'll see it at some point, but it sounds to me like, hey man, are you ready to be Jerick McKinnon?
Yeah.
Because that sounds great, doesn't it? That sounds so much fun. So I think his role is, hey, can you be a version of what Jerick McKinnon used to do in the offense as a pass protector, as a receiver out of the backfield, obviously a little bit of wiggle and burst. He did tell Adam Teicher today that he is fully healthy.
Yes.
Which is funny because I was like, he has to say that. And I guess we'll find out in about a month to maybe, I guess they'll do on-field stuff in May. So maybe 2 months. But yeah, just, okay. He sat out all last year with a hamstring injury. He probably got a deal sooner than maybe he anticipated. I also got that sense too. And yeah, can you, if I had to take a guess right now, I would guess that he would be the third down back, which of course puts Kareem Hunt in a very interesting situation because he feels to me like a tweener where it's like even he acknowledged hey, I had no training camp. I'm probably done with the 20 carries per game part of my career. Yeah. But running back by committee sounds exciting to Kareem Hunt. I don't know how exciting that is to Isaiah Pacheco.
So we can come back for Christian Fulton and Gardner Minshew. Let's go ahead and do the running back thing now because it was Hunt and it was Elijah Mitchell today. And Teicher asked Kareem Hunt something that I hadn't really thought about until Teicher asked the question. Well, actually, that kind of tracks. Teicher asked about Kareem Hunt's role and if he thought he might be more of the third down back next year with no Samaje Perine. And again, I heard Teicher ask that and I went, well, it's not how we think about his 2024 going because it was the thumper,
correct,
the floor setter, the guy who goes out there and gets you 3 yards. You need 2 yards, they'll get you 3. You need 5, they'll get you 3, that whole deal. But Kareem Hunt has always been a very natural pass catcher. Again, the burst is different and what he does in space is very different, but a pass protector and a guy who you can rely on out of the backfield a little bit. I said this I've talked about this with the guys at 96.5 a couple of times over the last week of like, I don't think this changes anything with the draft. I think none of these guys are under contract next year. Like, and Carson
Right.
Steele is not your running back of the future, even though, we can kind of argue about like what position he truly belongs at. And like, I'm clearly in the right on that, but that's okay. But like this is a team that has short-term solutions and no real long-term solutions.
Correct.
Maybe Isaiah Pacheco ends up staying on this team for a longer period of time, but not on a running back one type of contract. And I don't want to give those deals out unless you have an absolutely elite runner to do that. But if they draft somebody and then the top of the running back room going in the training camp is a rookie, Isaiah Pacheco, not necessarily in this order, but a rookie, Isaiah Pacheco, Kareem Hunt, and Elijah Mitchell, they were so thin in camp last year at running back, and we all knew it. Like, and that was even before Clyde was like fully sidelined. That was even kind of assuming that Clyde might be able to play when the season arrived and all of that.
Right.
So they were just really, really thin there. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Nate, but this is what I've said this on the radio, and I'm just kind of buying in on this strategy right now. Having Kareem Hunt in training camp is worth $1 million or whatever it's going to be, instead of like waiting to sign him in week 3 again if somebody gets hurt. The like worst case scenario here, I'm putting that in air quotes, is that Pacheco looks good, a rookie looks good, and Elijah Mitchell is healthy and looks good. And maybe you do carry Carson Steele to do more fullbacky things, or maybe you only carry 3 running backs in general and you carry an extra tight end, or you can carry all 4 of these guys. But man, if Kareem Hunt is a cut day cut down, he could be the veteran on the practice squad next year, and it wouldn't surprise me one bit, because just the nature of the position, not even specifically about these guys who have been hurt before, but Isaiah Pacheco, Elijah Mitchell, and a rookie in his first NFL season, one of those guys is going to get hurt. One of the and probably multiples of those guys are going to get hurt. Just again, the nature of the position. Having depth there is good. Like, I'm really pretty chill about how the running back room is shaking out right now.
Yeah, and I think that's a smart perspective to have. But again, they haven't done any on-field drills yet. We're still understanding what the draft board looks like. Again, as you said, the Chiefs should take a running back in the draft. The Chiefs know this. Like, you don't have to keep screaming at them. I can basically say it on their behalf. But it's smart to have players who are dedicated, who are motivated, who made the most of their opportunity last year, who will be another year in the system, will have a training camp to, I just, again, when I think about Kareem's season last year, it is utterly a miracle that they said, hey, man, can you play like right now? And he kept playing week after week after week, and the production really didn't drop off until like around mid to late November. So I think it's smart. You could say, hey, are these two veterans dueling between Elijah Mitchell and Kareem Hunt? Yeah, you could say that. But again, that is contingent on the Chiefs taking a running back in the draft and them trying to develop a guy to be a part of the mix for multiple seasons. But obviously, let's see what the young kid can do in training camp to where we can, manage these veterans, and that even includes Isaiah Pacheco.
Right. And this has been really evidently the Chiefs' strategy the last few years in particular, and I'm sure there will be some exceptions to this, but in general, I just would never really sweat about a 1-year contract in almost any circumstance. Like Hollywood, when there's real money and stuff, I understand. Like, you have to be smart about it.
Right.
When you are talking about a 1-year contract that's less than $3 or $4 million, that is the cost of filling out an NFL roster. And I think I said this on Tuesday. I might have said this last Thursday. I've been thinking about the running back room a lot. I think Samaje Perine has a better season if he's in St. Joe. He couldn't have been. He was in Denver at the time. Yeah. But like that matters in terms of being involved in what the team is doing throughout the entire offseason. I think Perine would have, I don't think he played poorly. I think he would have gotten used a little bit more and a lot earlier if he would have been there for all of that. So yes. We were talking about Keontae Ingram in that role in training camp, and Deneric Prince, guys whose names I've not heard since, I don't believe. This to me is just, it's not worth you, the voyeurs. It's not worth you stressing about where the running back room is going to be. They're still going to address it for the future. This is just setting the floor, and it's setting the floor
Right.
higher than they set it at this time last year. Let's take a timeout. We'll come back and talk more about the defense in the two former Chargers who have made the jump. Not at the exact same time like the two Niners, but we're still watching the Chiefs pick from the West Coast. We'll talk about that next.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network. Entertain, educate, inform. KC Sports Network.
Nate, we've talked about Christian Fulton a ton already, and we're going to talk about Jerry Tillery more on Tuesday when Seth is back. But from both of those guys, what did you hear from pressers today that you found interesting? I'll try to give you an answer on both sides too.
Yeah, what I learned today is these guys, and I wrote this as well, but like these two guys can already envision their roles, and that's got to be comforting and exciting to them. Hey, am I going to still be a starter? If you're Fulton, yes. Hey, am I still going to get to be versatile and a disruptor and get multiple one-on-ones? And hey, even if I think I find a matchup on the edge, could I do that in this system? And they said yes to Jerry Tillery. Okay, great. And like, we're going to be in prime time. We're going to be playing important games. We're probably going to be winning quite a bit. And even Jerry Tillery was like, hey, I don't have to pass rush Patrick Mahomes anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Where do I sign? So I get to play next to Chris Jones, and I don't have to pass rush Patrick Mahomes anymore. Excellent. When do I sign? And I'm going to get starting, a decent chunk of snaps, similar to like we said Tuesday with Tershawn Wharton's departure as well. So I think for both guys, like, you sold them on something that is easy for them to understand, that they feel that they can fulfill, and they both sort of talked today about like, maybe I can even improve. Maybe my game can even be elevated to a degree under Dave Merritt, under Joe Cullen, of course, under Steve Spagnuolo. And so it's an easy pitch. It's easy for them to understand. And so they should feel very good about themselves as to where they are right now in their careers. Again, does it make sense on a one-year deal? If it does, this is the result that you want your team to make when it doesn't have a ton of cap space and not a ton of, gaping roster holes, but you understand why they made these moves for these players who are professional and respectable enough to fulfill those roles, and understand that they can be part of the success, even though they're not required to be like, a star level player. But they can also grow in their careers. And hey, if I could come here, will I have a job next year? Right. Whether it's here or somewhere else in the league? Great, and they've seen that occur before, so it all makes sense to them. And so it's a lot easier to envision what your role is in March than to be Samaje Perine and be like,
right,
I just got here, what am I doing?
Yep.
So better to start there, which again makes total sense to me.
And they're both sides seem like such good fits for each other in that way too. Again, I'll let Seth do the real dirty work of the recap. But one of his big takeaways of the Tillery review is just he compares Tillery and Tershawn Wharton in a pretty favorable way, where they share some strengths and weaknesses. Mm-hmm. Well, Tershawn Wharton just got a huge payday as an undrafted free agent who's been improving and improving and improving. Jerry Tillery is a former first rounder who's shown flashes who you've got on a one-year deal. That is a trade I'm going to make every single offseason. We're like, Tershawn Wharton, absolutely worthy of those contract numbers and worthy of getting paid. And I'm glad somebody's paying him. But if I can get similar production on a one-year deal that keeps us all flexible, and then draft defensive lineman of some sort, probably in the first round, where I'm planting my flag right now.
Yep.
The picture really comes together there, and I think it makes total sense. The other thing from Fulton that we talked a little bit about his physicality, his fit in this Chiefs defense, but I think last year he played a lot more zone, and they talked about getting to the NFL and playing just a lot of zone in general, compared to, as he talked about, playing 90% press man in college and then getting to the NFL and playing all this zone. His ability to do all of those things at so many different levels and in a variety of things is another reason he's a good fit in this defense. It's not just that he's a hitter as a defensive back. He can do all of the things that Steve Spagnuolo wants that guy in that role to do. And, this is really reductive, but I do think it maybe helps. I think it might help set expectations. Christian Fulton and Jerry Tillery in 2025 might be Jalen Watson and Tershawn Wharton. And if you're getting those guys on what they were doing last year before Watson's injury, and obviously before Wharton hit the market and got a big payday, it's good team building. It just is. So I think, well, then there's Gardner Minshew, Nate. There's Gardner Minshew.
Yes.
He wants to get into cattle farming when he gets here, and he joined from an internet connection that was so questionable that the Zoom box said, like, Gardner Minshew's Wi-Fi connection, his bandwidth connection is unstable or whatever it is. All perfect. The vibes are perfect. He brought everything that I expected today, just from the Zoom. Was there anything other than just the euphoria of it all that got you from Minshew today?
It was this too. This man loves Andy Reid.
Yeah.
Oh, loves Andy Reid. You know, the question that the Chiefs had to ask themselves is Gardner Minshew right now an upgrade from Carson Wentz? That you could argue is the case. The margin might be, smaller than you realize. Obviously, Gardner Minshew was a starter last year with the Raiders, and Carson Wentz was not. But you know where the margins is going to increase, Josh?
Press conferences.
Meeting rooms.
My vibes. Mm-hmm.
Meeting rooms, film rooms, practice fields, buses, planes, sideline nonsense. This man is going to have such a fun time.
Yeah.
And I think he realizes this too, because, we were there. Josh, I'm sure you remember this too. We were there when Nick Foles was supposed to be the savior down in Duval, and he got hurt on opening day against the Chiefs in 2019. And we all said, who the hell is Gardner Minshew? They don't even have a backup. And then he kind of played well for like half the game to make it respectable. The Chiefs obviously won comfortably. But yeah, that was an interesting
That was the game. That was the game Tyreek Hill had the sternoclavicular thing, right? Is that right?
Correct. Yes, yeah. And that was the best game of Sammy Watkins' career statistically. What a time, ladies and gentlemen.
Sammy Watkins played 15 years ago. I don't know what you're talking about. That feels like generations ago. That's wild.
Really does. So yeah, man, he's going to, yes, as Nate Dogg says, establish the fun.
Yeah.
He might be in the film room saying, man, F the system. Just sling it, baby. Because that's what I would have done.
He mentioned today, I hadn't even thought about it this way, but you know what Gardner Minshew and Patrick Mahomes both did in college? Air raid, baby.
That's right.
Air raid college quarterbacks.
Air it out.
Like, I think having an air raid backup quarterback is a world I want to live in. If I'm Patrick Mahomes, if I'm Andy Reid, if I'm the Chiefs, and if I'm Gardner Minshew. So I love it. I really do.
Yeah, it's got to be weird. Now, again, there's a regime change in Las Vegas, but it's got to be weird to go from like, hey man, I'm pretty good. I made a really nice career out of myself. Again, from a guy who was kind of told, hey, maybe he can be a functional backup in the league, and then he proves that like he's a fringe starter in a lot of ways. So I've done a lot, and then it's like, oh man, I had the shoulder injury. It was an absolute mess in Vegas last year. I ain't gonna be back. Man, am I going to be in like the quarterback wilderness? Because let me tell you, Carson Wentz knows what that's like. He's still in the wilderness.
Yeah.
For you to think like, man, I might be in the quarterback wilderness, and then for Andy Reid to be like, I'm picking you. For Andy Reid to be like, I choose you. Gardner Minshew.
It's really upsetting that I'm going to shift this from a Pokemon reference to what I'm about to shift it to, because that was built for me. But it's got to feel like winning The Bachelor, right? Where you're like, listen, the odds of me getting anything out of this experience are incredibly. You what?
What?
Me? All right, yeah, hell yeah.
Yes. So he was very much in the like, man, I cannot believe I get to learn from Andy Reid and like go back to like those West Coast principles that he, first came into the NFL with Doug Peterson. Obviously, there's an air raid background. Yeah, man, and just be a vibes king. Like, just be a vibes king in the locker room. And hey, if they need you to, and Seth has said this, but like, hey, if they need you to start a game or two, like, hey, you're a professional. You're gonna have fun with it. You're gonna let it hang loose. And if you win, great. If you lose, hell, I'm you all know me when you signed up for me. And it's interesting to know that Andy Reid signed up for this too. Whereas like, don't be processed out. Don't be like, obviously Wentz was trying to rebuild his career, whereas like Minshew was just trying to sustain his career in a sense. And so it's really cool to just be like, hey, like Andy Reid wants fun just as much as Patrick Mahomes wants fun. And again, if you think he's an upgrade on the field, great. I mean, we don't need to see the film to know he's probably an upgrade when not on the field.
And that, to me, that's an off-season win. The name I mentioned earlier, Nate, and kind of in conversation with Jerry Tillery, the Chiefs did bring back Marlon Tuipulotu, who was on the team throughout last year. Huge nose tackle, and
would have played if Derek Nottie wasn't on the team last year.
So this begs the question: Is Marlon Tuipulotu Danny Shelton, or is he Derek Nottie now? Where Danny Shelton floated around the team for a while, just massive, absolute.
Talk about a vibes king. Love Danny Shelton,
and he was built like Blastoise. Like he's just huge. I am curious. Obviously, Tershawn Wharton and Jerry Tillery, much more similar players. But you say Marlon Tuipulotu would have played if Derek Nottie wasn't on the team. Derek Nottie's not on the team now. And right now, neither is Mike Pennell. I'm curious if you know if Mike Pennell is considering retirement, if he's waiting for the draft to come and go, if he's waiting on the Chiefs or the Chiefs waiting on him, anything around him right now. And do you think there's some truth to the idea that Marlon Tuipulotu spent last year? He's not a old player, but he's not like, this isn't year 2. He didn't just spend a year on the practice squad to get going. Right. Is he going to get an elevation into a larger role? Is Mike Pennell going to be back? Are they going to try to invest more in a more of a nose tackle type? Are we going to get my 3 tech and my 1 tech in the draft in the first and 5th round kind of deal? Where's Keandre Coburn, by the way? I forgot about him until just now. That should have worked.
Yeah, he's. Did he get tendered? I don't. Yeah, it wasn't great.
Roster. I think he's on a roster. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Marlon, yes, I think he'll get a chance to
Marlon is 25 years old, by the way. He turns 26 at the end of May.
Right. I think he'll get a real shot to make the roster this year. Again, I think he was insurance if something did happen to Derek Nottie or Mike Pennell. When it comes to Mike Pennell, I mean, if I didn't want Travis Kelce to retire and I didn't want James Winchester to retire, don't want you to retire too, bud. But I haven't, again, now, does Mike Pennell need a job right now? No. Could he hang out until after the draft? Sure. I haven't heard a ton on him. I will get back to you on that, sir. Considering there's been some other priorities and
it's okay, Nate. It's okay.
Look, Charles Omenihu's still out there, and I don't know what David Mulgetty's up to, but we'll find out relatively soon. So no, I just think I think Marlon will get a chance this year. He makes a lot of sense. He's been in the system. So yeah, let's have a real run at it in, training camp, preseason. And like, if you're on the 53, will you be dressed for the, top 47 or whatever? So yeah, I think the defensive line is starting to come together, but I would of course say, look at your running backs, find that defensive lineman or two you enjoy both early and late in the draft, like Josh mentioned. And hey, by the way, probably need another receiver / cornerback too. So yeah, I mean, it all makes sense to me, but it would be cool if there was like this trio of long-standing veterans and, Kelce, Winchester, and Pennell, who all said, okay, like 1, 2, 3. This is it for me.
1, 2, 3, retirement on me. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. One more ride. One more day.
Retirement on 3 is the new Cancun on 3. Again, Tuipulotu's 3 years younger than Derek Nottie, basically. He's younger than Tershawn Wharton. So I'm very open to that experiment. Because again, you gotta find players where you're not always expecting to find players to round out the roster that way. You mentioned receiver, Nate. So the last thing, as we are going to crush the hour mark on a day that was we were building up steam at 4:40 or whatever, and look at us now. I don't even know what's happening in basketball, and that's okay.
Gonzaga's gonna win, and we'll have a quick dinner before more basketball.
Perfect, fantastic. I get a chance to rehydrate before the second round of cocaine. Well, I tell you what, nobody ever has better summarized what the red zone channel is like than that Michigan baseball player who later apologized for snorting the third baseline. Never should have apologized.
No,
incredibly cold moment.
Hey, when you can create a new celebration in baseball that we all get and no one's ever thought about,
instantly.
Come on, man. Like, yeah, incredible celebration. He's not doing cocaine in real life, guys. At least I don't think so. It would be difficult for him to play baseball and do that at a high level.
I'll tell you what, also, I don't know where that field was. That would be an extremely expensive landscaping job, I would imagine. I said I would imagine, just in case my mom's watching. Now I got to text her after this. Say it was a joke. It's okay. Let's snort the pass catchers before we get out of here. We didn't really talk very much about Juju Smith-Schuster on Tuesday. Also, he didn't talk today, which in retrospect is a little weird because this is his third round with Kansas City now, and obviously he sticks around, like you mentioned earlier. DeAndre Hopkins and Justin Watson depart. Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster return. I'm pretty happy with where this room is now. You talked about it earlier. We talked about Hollywood talked about the fact that again he hasn't played with all these guys. That he and Xavier Worthy and Patrick Mahomes all now have shorter haircuts. Rashee Rice apparently not following them that way, according to Hollywood. But I gotta say, I feel pretty good about the wide receiver room, despite being a person who never feels good enough about the wide receiver room, generally speaking. Where are you at right now? You've already hinted that you expect there to be a little more of a long-term investment in the position still.
Yeah. At least for another year, I think you could argue, hey, maybe you should take one more receiver higher in the draft than lower in the draft. But again, it's not as much of a top priority as it was last year. In trading up to get Xavier Worthy. I hadn't thought about Juju today because again,
15 minutes James Winchester. I mean,
you let him get his shine on. Martine McCole is with the Green Bay Packers.
And McCole Hardman's with the Green Bay Packers.
It's sad. Now Tucker's right. We will see this man come Halloween, I'm sure.
Yes,
in some capacity. Like, I don't mean to say this. But did it cross my mind that if Nico Remigio has an injury in October,
6th round pick going to Green Bay Packers,
I know who Dave Tobe would call. So yeah,
they're paying him. They better be calling Jack Cochran to return those kicks.
So yes, the wide receiver position looks better than it did at this point last year. Think about it in that terms too.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't help that Rashee Rice had a knee injury, and we'll be interested to see how he comes back. Well, how much will he participate in the offseason program before training camp? Obviously he's still doing rehabs, and the videos look compelling and convincing that rehab's going well, which is what I've been told this whole time. So, hey, you have Hollywood. He's capable. Obviously, Xavier Worthy can get better from year 1 to year 2. Because of his blocking, his veteran nature, the fact that he can give you a game or two. Again, they think Juju, God, this will sound harsh, but the Chiefs think Juju Smith-Schuster is a more reliable player right now than DeAndre Hopkins.
Yeah.
Point blank.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll get to see if that's true in 2025, but that's the decision that they made. And because of his veteran nature, his blocking ability, his ability to be play multiple positions on the field. Hey, if it's almost this weird sense too. If Travis Kelce needs a breather, you could put Juju Smith-Schuster in there, and he could run a similar version of a similar route. Given he is the biggest body type they still have in the receiver room. Now, that does not prevent you from, drafting someone who's 6'2" or higher and can catch the football.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
That would
It's
be
not
great.
going to happen, but it would be really exciting.
Especially on the perimeter near the sideline, which is why the DeAndre Hopkins looked a certain when they traded for DeAndre Hopkins, it looked a certain way because it was like, oh, that's what it looks like to have a professional athlete who's tall and can run routes and can catch the football. But obviously he's older than Juju, so yeah, it all makes sense to me. Again, because McCole Harmon is in Green Bay, that is a sign that Nico Remigio is on the roster. He is your special teamer. He is your guy that can come in if you have an injury and play the slot to some degree. Yeah. And if you like somebody in the third round of the draft and they're taller than me, take a swing at it. I don't care. So it all makes sense to me. I don't know. It's funny that you say you feel good about it now because I think Chiefs fans should feel good about it. The issue is this team plays a lot of games, and man, can you guys just, if you stay healthy, this offense should average more than it did last year in terms of the scoreboard, but you need health.
Yep. And obviously that'll be another ongoing question. And them continuing to add short-term, long-term, I'm good with. But like you said, they're in a better spot right now than they were this time last year. I mean, certainly because they spent a first-round pick on a receiver not long after this time last year. But even after the draft last year, pretty similar to where we're at now. So again, if you want to read Seth's film review about Jerry Tillery, that's up in the Chief of the North newsletter right now. And if you want to read Nate's work in summarizing his takeaways from the day of press conferences today, that'll be up in the Athletic shortly. I don't believe that's out yet. And I'll handle the outro here, Nate. If you want to chime in, please feel free to. But I have some very sad news to pass along from a couple hours ago, and I'll probably read things from people who have written more and knew him better. But Dan Israel has passed away. If that name is familiar to you, it's because you've listened to the Chiefs on the radio. He was the executive producer of the Chiefs radio network, and his death was announced today. And the Chiefs have mourned that. 96.5 tweet out a statement. I'm going to read a couple of those now.
Yes.
To give you some context. So 96.5 wrote that we're heartbroken over the passing of Dan Israel, an NFL broadcasting legend and Hall of Fame producer. More importantly, a friend and a colleague. His impact on the Chiefs radio network is synonymous with the Chiefs kingdom. Our thoughts are with his family and loved ones. And the Chiefs released statements with statements from Clark Hunt and Andy Reid. Clark Hunt said, "My family and I are deeply saddened by the loss of Dan Israel. Dan was an integral part of our organization for 35 seasons, and his work as an executive producer of the Chiefs radio network helped bring the game to life for millions of listeners across Chiefs Kingdom. Dan was dedicated, he was kind, and he brought joy into our building each day. Through his battle with cancer over the past 10 years, these qualities serve as an inspiration to his coworkers and the Chiefs fans alike. We'll certainly miss him, and we'll keep his family in our prayers." The one bit that I'll add is I believe I only met Dan one time, and it left an impression at that time because I was through my through college, my radio station at the college radio station at Mid-American Nazarene. One way or another, we had a day. It was Chiefs Chargers years ago where we got to shadow the radio broadcast, and we went in, and it's really wild to think about. I remember Dan really kind of took the lead showing us a lot of things. And I remember how gracious he was and how kind and gracious Lynn Dawson was. And it is kind of wild and obviously deeply sad to think about both of them being gone now. And it is, as ever, when a too soon passing like this happens, it is heartening to see the responses from people who were touched by these people's work and more importantly, by the people that they were beyond their work. And from every story of Dan Israel that I have ever heard, it certainly seems like he was one of those people. He was one of those people to me long before he would have had any reason to be anything to a college kid, sniffing around a NFL radio broadcast too close to kickoff. I'm sure like it was a stressful time, and he was very, very gracious. And I've remembered that for a very long time. And it, I assumed that I would tell him that someday, upon another crossing, and again, passed away today, or again, it was announced. I'm not sure exactly when, but a decade-long battle with cancer, and his passing has been announced. Nate, I'm sure you guys cross paths. I don't know, how so, but
I mean, I've known of this battle that he's had, essentially the entire time I've known him. But a true professional, a wonderful man. Yeah, I will miss him dearly. The way I think about Dan Israel is sort of the man who's next to Mitch Holtis that no one realizes.
Yep.
And the reason the Chiefs radio broadcast is so much a part of people's lives is those two men. And so when I heard the news today, I immediately thought of Mitch. And just knowing those two relationships, of their relationship together. Yeah, one of my favorite traditions is it's a calling. You get called back to St. Joseph, Missouri. And it's the first day of school, and I hug everybody. It's the one time in the season where I offer hugs to everybody, because it's the end of the summer, it's the start of a new year, and Mitch and Dan were obviously a part of that. I thought, in some ways I feel like I saw Dan more than I ever saw Mitch, and that's crazy because there was a lot of demands on Mitch Holtis. I cannot stress that enough, that dude works an incredible amount of hours, but also Dan was right there behind him. I think it's amazing. And again, I think this is part of like humans and relationships, but it is amazing that guys, I'm being dead honest. Like, not every NFL owner would have put out a statement today on behalf of Dan Israel. So Clark Hunt doing that just acknowledges his contributions. And again, just a wonderful man. Always appreciated chatting with him. They got to see the entire operation. And so learning from them pretty early on when I started doing this job was really paramount. And just a very warm, kind man. Took the job serious, but understood how silly it was too. And I always have an immense amount of respect for those people as well. So yeah, just it's sad. And we're just obviously very, very thoughtful about his family. And if, cancer is it's such a disheartening part of life, but immense amount of respect for the way he went about his circumstances.
Since you mentioned that, Nate, and that way, I'll go ahead and give Andy Reid's statement the final word for today's show. Because look, I think everybody handles things like this in different ways, obviously, but I didn't know that Dan had been battling cancer for 10 years. And I'm guessing that people who knew him in passing frequently didn't know what exactly was going on. So I'll read you what Andy Reid said here, and then we'll talk to you again on Tuesday. Andy Reid said, "I was heartbroken to hear about the loss of Dan Israel. Over the last several years, I watched Dan battle this disease with strength and a positive attitude. Dan was the first person I would interview with after games. No matter how he was feeling, he always put that aside to get that interview in with a positive spin for our fans. He was a huge part of the Chiefs radio network and the Chiefs football team. I loved Dan Israel, and he will be missed by the Chiefs organization, but never forgotten."